Hello and welcome to Studio 275 for the third video on composing tips. And we have Sam, the spider plant, with us today as well. And strangely, the weather at the moment in this part of the frozen wastes of northern England is actually really nice. Thank you to everybody who watched last week, who commented last week. There's always interesting comments. If these little videos create one idea for somebody or have one snippet of useful information in for somebody, then they will have done their job. This week we're going to talk about melodies, and I left you last week with a snippet of a melody, well actually a complete melody, but a strange melody, and we will be coming back to that. It wasn't for no reason. Does a piece need a melody? Well, no, not all the time, and there's an argument that says if you put three notes together in a row, you've created a melody anyway. There are pieces that clearly are very melodic, but there are pieces that are built on rhythmic cells. There are pieces of music that are built, I suppose, if you think about more modern music, on a drum beat rather than an actual melody itself. And I want to just nip back 5 years now to lockdown. One of the things that I did in lockdown, we all had the chance to do things that we probably, because we were stuck at home, wouldn't normally do, is I wanted to watch some of the videos that are on YouTube of the two musicians, or a couple of musicians, that I find to be mentors to me. And although one of them is a composer, one of them, it's not in the concept of being a composer that I find him interesting. I find him interesting because I find him to be the finest educator of my generation, at any rate. And this is Leonard Bernstein, and he ran, there are a series of videos on YouTube of him giving lectures. And the one that enthralled me the most, I would have to say, is the one where he's in Carnegie Hall with 2,000 school children, and he's explaining the concept of a melody to them. And I'm going to draw slightly on some of the things that he said because they made a very big impression at the time. And you can find this whole video on YouTube. I think if you just put Leonard Bernstein explaining melody, it will appear. Some of the other videos of Leonard Bernstein with his constant cigarette going are also very interesting to listen to. The other person is not going to be connected with anything we're doing about composing, although he was a fine arranger. But in the world of choral conducting, my hero, for want of a better word, my mentor, will be Robert Shaw, who I think was the finest choral conductor, again, of my generation. And I guess younger people probably wouldn't have heard of him, but for me, and I'm not saying that anybody should agree, these two are massive figures in my education in music, as indeed Francis Jackson, York Minster, was. Some melodies, as in the one that we played last week, are completely self-contained. It goes and rests on the dominant, and then comes back. Now, it then goes back to something that it's already done, and back again, which brings it perfectly back to where it started. It's a simple melody, and last week I was saying, tongue-in-cheek, it's the finest melody ever written by anybody at any time. But actually, it's not so tongue-in-cheek because the melody is known by everybody, does not waffle, and is completely self-contained. Now, many times you see pieces of music by people who are starting out to write, and in there will be enough material for 5 pieces. It will not be self-contained like that. It will have in it enough material that they could separate and make actually 5 pieces of, because instead of developing the melody, they've chosen to go off on a different tangent completely, which has got nothing to do with the original idea. And yet repetition is one of the biggest building blocks in melody. And that's a very simple melody. But I want to explain now to you something which you probably will find already exists in your own music. And it's not until somebody shows you this that you actually think, my God, I've been doing that. So a friend of mine who's a very good musician, and he conducts a male voice choir not far away from here and some other choirs, was having a discussion on Facebook in which he said, well, all new compositions are really just regurgitations of things that we've heard, and we've reassembled them and put them out. There may well be some truth in that, but there is certainly some truth in the fact that we do store things that we've heard. Now, this is what's called the 1-2-3 method. And this is not for self-contained melodies, because they are, like the one you just heard, self-contained. This is for melodies, or maybe, shall we say, themes, that need some development. And Anna Bernstein calls it the 1-2-3 method. You could call it the lights, camera, action method, or the ready, steady, go method. But it's something which, when somebody shows it to you, becomes instantly, a little bell rings and it says, my God, I knew that all the time, but I didn't know I knew it. I'm going to use a melody by Max Steiner. Max Steiner was around 1888 to 1971 and is a film composer. And he wrote the music for King Kong, he wrote the music for Casablanca, not the actual song As Time Goes By, but the rest of the music. And he wrote the music for Gone with the Wind, and it's Gone with the Wind, and specifically Tara's theme, that we're going to take to show you this. And just a little aside here, which is quite something I find really interesting. When we deal with classical music, it's quite clear. We discuss Beethoven's Fifth, or Bach's Brandenburg concertos. But in actual fact, when we deal with popular music, and you ask maybe a singing student who wrote that song, they'll be able to tell you who sang it. But they will not rarely be able to tell you who wrote it. And this piece of music that you're going to hear, I guess lots and lots of people will know it, but they would not be able to tell you. They'd be able to tell you the film it came from, but not the piece of music. So the purpose of the 1-2-3 method, or how it pans out, is that you have an idea. And in this case, the idea is, that's the idea. The idea, so that's the ready, shall we say. The idea then is repeated, but with a slightly different ending. That's the steady. But then we go for the killer. Everything is built on the same rhythmic pattern. And in fact, it's a deceptively simple melody, but it's the third time that it actually reaches that you think, my God, that catches you. It's a beautiful melody, and it's instantly recognisable. And then I thought, well, have I been doing this? And Stephen Maxon, very fine organist from Middlesbrough Cathedral, played the other day on YouTube my morning meditation from the sets of miniatures. And I noticed when listening exactly the same. 1. Repeat. Slightly different. Number 3. I've been doing it. I've been doing it and not realising it. So this is an interesting way of beginning to develop a melody. Um, how we actually create a melody, well, I was going to put it in this video, but I see we're already nearly up to time, so I'm going to leave that for next week. But there was a book that came out in the 1940s called How to Make a Million from Melody. Well, this book, I mean, if we knew that, the book would be a million seller. Because the book really just actually said how you should develop an idea, because you had to come up with the idea in the first place, which the book didn't give you. So it was a bit of a strange thing. I could go through hundreds of melodies and describe how they were made, but the key things are that there needs to be maybe rise and fall, statement and change, a mixture of repetition and new material, stress and relaxation. And what about the accompaniment? Because the accompaniment, of course, whatever you choose, will colour what that melody has got to actually say. And what about, for instance, the range of notes in the melody? If it's for a singer, is it going to be singable? Are you going to allow them places to breathe? And that applies to woodwind instruments. And whilst we talk about instruments, string instruments tend to be homogeneous, big word, meaning they sound the same throughout their range. Woodwind instruments don't even sound the same in their own range. So, and woodwind instruments need to breathe. These are things to take into consideration when you're constructing the melody. So you could say it's hard enough to construct the melody in the first place without actually worrying about all these things as well. It could be said that, and sometimes people do say, oh, I've got a tune worm, an earworm, because they've been singing a piece of music. Or the postman comes down the street whistling a piece of music. I guess then you've made it, and you know you've made it, because the postman has remembered the melody. The singer is plagued by the earworm of the melody that they've heard. So this is a very quick look at melodies, because the subject is we could go on forever, and of course if you allowed me to I probably would, but I hope it makes you maybe just think. Later on in the series we probably are going to together write a melody, or come up with one by some strange YouTube collaboration. But if you are a person that believes that melody is still relevant, because of course a lot of composers would say it's old-fashioned and it isn't relevant. But if you're somebody who believes it is, then I've just got one final little piece that just come into my head. I was going to say there are self-contained melodies like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star that we did. There are melodies that require development, like the 1-2-3 method. But there's actually a third one. There are many more, but a third important one. The beginning of Borodin's Polotzian dances. It's a germ of a fifth. And the melody just goes, and it goes, and it goes, and it unfolds itself. So it's not a 4-square melody like coming back. It's not an expanding melody like the 1-2-3 lights, camera, action version. It is a tiny germ which just flows and takes you with it. And that's a very skillful and risky business. Because of course once you've lost the attention of the listener, there's too much in the melody, they don't understand it, it doesn't sort of have a shape to it, then you've lost them. And yet Borodin there takes you on this journey of a seamlessly endless melody. So, before I waffle on too much and my melody becomes waffling, I hope there's something here that interests you if you are writing melodious music. Comment, subscribe, share, and have a lovely weekend. Bye.